Good morning, YouTubers. Forest Boy here. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for watching. Well, it's been a while. I've been off the bike for 16 weeks. My last video was the preparation for the Alps trip video. I haven't done my helmet up. It's a good start. There we go. Yeah, my last video was the preparation for the Alps trip, which I subsequently went on. Took 8 guys on tour through the Alps. Unfortunately, I had a major incident, which ended up with me in hospital having emergency surgery. I've been off the bike for 16 weeks recovering, and the bike was on the point of being written off. So as you can see, it wasn't, because I'm still on the same old girl. But it's not the nicest story. So anyway, if you're interested in that, get yourself a cup of tea. See you after the intro. Okay, so here's the story. How myself and the bike both almost got written off. I'm not sure which was in the worst state, me or the bike. I'm not sure there was much to choose. Anyway, we set off on the trip, 8 of us. Fantastic trip, despite what happened. It was an absolutely amazing trip, one of the best I've ever done. We had horrendous weather in Switzerland. It was the same week that they had all those terrible floods, and we had a day and a half, I think, riding through Switzerland. It was absolutely torrential. I didn't bother to record anything. It was hopeless. And it didn't matter how good your wet gear was or your kit was, sooner or later the water would creep in somewhere. It just never stopped. Anyway, we met my son down at Geneva. That was the 8 of us together. We set off up into the mountains. We had a great time. A few road closures, which made us work hard to get to destinations a couple of times, but the weather was absolutely fantastic. We rode up above the snow line. It was just fantastic. There wasn't too much traffic about because it was early. The passes had only been open a couple of weeks. And we just had the best time. We had great accommodation, great company. We really enjoyed it. So we were 2 days from the end of getting to the end of the Alps bit, where we would arrive in Menton in the south of France. And it was actually one of our biggest days. I think we were doing 4 or 5 big cols. So we set off in the morning from our hotel in Briançon. We would do 180 miles that day and end up 45 miles in Barcelonnette from Briançon, so you can tell what sort of day it was. And we would also enter be 3 countries in that day, so it was a big day. We set off in the morning from Briançon. The weather was absolutely stunning, glorious sunshine, warm. We did the first col, I think it's the Izoard or the Izoren, I'm not sure. I will, if I remember, I'll put it up on the screen later when I edit. Yeah, we stopped to the top, take some photographs. The bottom bit is a walled section, which I've done many times. So we set off onto the wall section. We came off the first set of walls, and in between there's another set of walls. Well, in between there's a small village and there's an open area, thank God. So there was a guy had got in between us on a little naked bike. I don't know what it was, doesn't matter. And I was hoping to do some filming of the lads going down through the walls. I was 4 or 5 back from the front. So we came out of the walls onto a straight section coming towards the village. I said to the guys, try and wave that guy back past so he's not in our footage when I film. Okay, no problem. So they waved him past. He went flying past, but it was just on the edge of the village, and they have those temporary traffic lights, which if someone's going too fast, they immediately turn red. Wow, there's some standing water here and mud. So the light turned red very quickly. The guys all jumped on the brakes. I'm not going that fast, maybe 40 miles an hour. Guys jumped on the brakes, stopped, and I got hit from behind hard. I was right on the edge of the bank with the clutch in, with the front brake on, my hand on the throttle, clutch in first gear. As I was hit, all of that let go. I probably whacked the throttle on, so the bike did a massive wheelie up in the air, straight over the bank. They catapulted down the bank with me, and I'm pretty sure that one of the panniers hit me in the back. It was a pannier or a top box, I'm not sure which, but one of the boxes hit me in the back, and that was what caused all the serious damage. As soon as I hit the ground, I knew my shoulder would broke. I knew it straight away. In fact, my son came running over. He was the first one there, and the first words I said to him, my shoulder's broken. So I was there for, now luckily on the edge of the village there was a guy, I don't know, he was working on a house or cutting a hedge, I don't know what he was doing. He was an off-duty paramedic, so he came running over. He took charge straight away. The guy was fantastic, looked after me, could see straight away that I was in trouble. There were also 2 police motorcyclists just down the road, so somebody called them. They came up and dealt with all the traffic and everything else. They weren't interested in the accident at all. Didn't take a name, address, details, nothing. So anyway, an ambulance turned up, checked me over, put me in the ambulance, take me to hospital. That ambulance took me to the bottom of the mountain, where they swapped me over, put me in another ambulance. That one went back up the mountain, and I went back to Briançon. I was in Briançon hospital for about, I think, 5-6 hours, something like that. I had an X-ray, I had ultrasound, and I had a CT scan. At the end of all that, they gave me a load of painkillers. They told me I could travel but don't drive. I had 1 broken rib and a very small bleed, which was nothing to worry about. I asked about the shoulder, and they said no, they checked the X-ray, there was nothing wrong with the shoulder. So I got myself eventually, over the next 2 days, I was dosed up on very strong painkillers. I managed to get myself down to Menton, where the lads were. My son stayed with me the whole time. Anyway, the journey to Menton was an absolute nightmare. One of the toughest things I've ever done in my life. Got to Menton, eventually managed to get a flight from Nice airport, flew home. That was an adventure in itself. The plane was 5 or 6 hours late, delayed because of French air traffic controllers. Oh, it was just a catastrophe. Anyway, I got home, wife picked me up. Started to feel a little bit better. Not great, but a little bit better. I've been home a few days and a friend came to see me to see how I was, an old biker friend. So my wife went out for an hour because she hadn't been out the door. And while he was there, I collapsed. I ended up collapsing 3 times. Down to the local hospital. They did an x-ray and the guy was like, oh my god, he said, there's multiple fractures in there. We need to get you to the main hospital in Gloucester immediately. He phoned Gloucester, sent them a copy of the x-ray, and they said they wanted me in straight away. So at 11 o'clock in the morning, I was in the main hospital at Gloucester. X-rays, ultrasound, CT scan, exactly the same as I had in France. Only this time, I had 8 broken bones. I had 7 broken ribs. I can't remember. 6 or 7 broken ribs, and a broken scapula, my shoulder blade, which I knew was broken. But worse than that, I had massive internal bleeding and a collapsed lung, and I needed emergency surgery. But because the blood inside my chest cavity, the bottom, it was in several different layers for different bleeds, and the bottom layer had congealed, they were a bit concerned about how they were going to do the surgery. So they'd got a phone call into the chief thoracic surgeon of the UK to get advice on how to deal with this. This was at 2 o'clock. They eventually got him at 10:30, and at 11 o'clock they were running up the corridor with me on a trolley. So I had the surgery, and then what followed was just 6 days of pain and drugs and drifting in and out. It was, I can't say it was awful because I didn't know a great deal about it, but it's not pleasant. So after 6 days they allowed me to come home. They weren't happy about sending me home, but I wanted to go home, and I managed to walk up and down the corridor and do a couple of things which they wanted me to do. So I had very, very strict and stern warnings from the surgeon about my behaviour and they let me come home. And then what followed was 16 weeks of very slow recovery. I finally got back on the bike about 5 days ago. I'd done about 600, no, just under, about 550 miles. I'm still in a bit of pain on my left hand side. It's certainly not perfect, but it's okay. It's I've ridden my mountain bike about 100 miles and that was okay. So, and I've finally got my lung function back. That was the most difficult thing. But my lung function is back. I have to do tests on it every day, but it's there. It's now up at 96%, which is good for, especially for my age. Wow, look at him, both sides of the road. So I'm well on the way to recovery. I would say I'm probably about 85–90%, which is okay. But the bike was picked up by a recovery firm in the village, which and taken to Gap in France, the BMW dealer, which ended up costing me 700 quid. Bit of a scam, but anyhow, there you are. It was picked up and it was made safe and it was taken to the nearest BMW garage. I got home, I phoned my local BMW dealer, Cotswold Motorrad in Cheltenham, told them what had happened, and they literally dealt with everything. They said, "Oh, leave it to us, we'll deal with everything. Do you want the bike back?" And I said, "Yeah, I do want the bike back." So they arranged repatriation for the bike, which is all dealt with for the BMW assistance thing. They arranged repatriation. They dealt with everything. Then when the bike came back, they did a full assessment of the damage. They made a video. They did a full written report, and they took about 35 photos, which went off to the insurance company. I think the damage was around about £10,000. But the bike's only just a year old, even though it's done 18,000, it's only just a year old. Anyway, I thought, well, that's the end of that, they'll write that off. So I started looking, while I was recovering, I started searching for a new bike. Anyway, the insurance assessor went, visited BMW, looked at the bike, spoke to the service manager there, Rob, and authorised the repair. Apparently, because it was a no fault. Actually, I want to go up here, concentrate. Because it was a no fault accident on my part, the insurer would pay up to 100% of the value of the bike. So obviously £10,000 was less than the value of the bike. If it had been a fault accident, so my fault, they would have only paid 50% of the value of the bike, because obviously if it's a no fault, they get all the money back from the other insurance company. If it's my fault, then there's nobody to claim off, so you get less money. Anyway, so I was quite pleasantly surprised. The damage to the bike was quite severe, although most of the serious damage was just on the back end. Both panniers, well, the wheel disintegrated completely. The brake, obviously the hub was gone. The final drive was damaged. The shaft cover was damaged. Both aluminium panniers and the top box were flattened because the bike literally somersaulted. It came down upside down. And there was quite a bit of, well, there was a lot of superficial damage or cosmetic damage all up the left hand side. The screen was gone, bits and pieces at the front were gone, everything on the left hand side was gone. It even snapped off the bar end, off the bars, mirrors were gone, front beak was gone, I think the engine bars were gone. It was bits and pieces like that, but it soon adds up. There was obviously 20% VAT on the bill. Top box they didn't pay for because it was an aftermarket top box. Anything that was aftermarket was not paid for. There was a different wing than this on there on the original screen. There were different hand things on here which they didn't pay for. Top box they didn't pay for, but it wasn't much. It was only odds and sods. I don't think the lot has cost me £200 to replace. So BMW ordered all the parts, and when they got all the parts they did the repair. I had a lot of people say to me, "Oh, you'll never want to ride that thing again." Well, yeah, I do want to ride it again. It's a blooming new bike. I absolutely love it. It's been fixed by BMW. I wouldn't have it fixed at a third-party garage because I just didn't want to. At the end of the day, if the BMW bill was too expensive, then I wouldn't have it repaired. They could write it off. And I deal with the consequences, but if it was going to be repaired, I wanted it repaired at BMW. My local dealer is very good. I trust them implicitly. So that was what I wanted. I was happy to have the bike repaired. I knew that if the bike came out from BMW, it would be as new, and it is. It took them about 3 or 4 days to do the repair. They road tested it a couple of times. There were a couple of little issues that they weren't quite happy with, which they fixed. But the only thing I've found since I've had it, which they're going to do when I take it back in, and we're just bumped them, there's no, the rear wheel tyre pressure monitor is not working. The front one is, the back one isn't, so they've put a new wheel in, so I'm not sure there. Maybe they need to set it up on the computer or what, I don't know. Maybe they forgot to put it in. And the SOS light is back on, which has been on for the last bloody 3 to 4 months, and no matter how many times they put it out, it comes back on. There's been an issue with the BMW SOS for quite some time. Mine's not the only one. And I've mentioned that to them. I had to wait 4 hours for them to do an update to get rid of that light, which they said would fix it. And it came on before I got home. It doesn't bother me because the SOS still works, because it worked when I had the incident. It's just the yellow triangle on the screen, but to be honest, I tend not to see it after a short while, so I'm not particularly concerned about that. So yeah, so I've had the bike, as I say, about 5 days. By the end of today I'll be on 600 mile. I'll pop it back in then to BMW, and they'll change the oil in the final drive at the back, because it's all brand new, so it needs oil changing after 600 mile, and the bike's perfect. I never quite understand why people say, oh, you'll never ride that again. I mean, it had a bump, the bits were taken off, brand new bits were put on, and it's fixed. It's been checked over. It's perfect. Why wouldn't I want to ride it? Never appeared. Oh, the other thing was, obviously because I was injured, the Irish trip was cancelled. I'm struggling to get the money back for that off the insurance company. They don't seem to want to pay for that one. Anyway, I'm alive, so I'm not that bothered. Yeah, we had to cancel the island trip because obviously I was in no state to go anywhere. So yeah, just a short one, let you know what's been going on, what's happening. I'm not going to say I've got plans for the future, because I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be riding the bike, but as far as videoing is concerned and making film, I'm not sure. I'll see how I feel about it when I've done this one, if I do this one. If I enjoy it and I get the buzz back, then I'll probably do some more of it. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. I want to call in to see a mate in a minute. It's only a couple of miles up the road. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, hit the notification and the subscribe button, and if I put more up, or when I put more up, you'll get notified of it. So I'm going to call it a day there. This is Forest Boy signing out. Ride safe, take care. See you all again. Bye for now.